You finally get the promotion you've been working toward for years. And the first thing you do, you start showing up late, missing deadlines, picking fights with your boss, or maybe you meet someone who actually treats you well, someone kind, stable, emotionally available, everything you said you wanted, and within weeks you're finding reasons to push them away, creating problems that don't exist, sabotaging something good before it has a chance to become real. You watch yourself do it. You know it's happening. And some part of you is screaming, "Stop, this is what you wanted." But you can't seem to help it. If this is you, if you destroy good things the moment they arrive, this isn't about willpower. This isn't about discipline. This is about something much deeper, something your nervous system learned a long time ago. Let me describe a feeling and you tell me if this sounds familiar. Things are going well, actually well. Your relationship is stable, your job is working out, your life is finally starting to feel okay. And then it hits, this creeping sense of dread, this waiting for the other shoe to drop, this voice that whispers, "This can't last. Something bad is coming. You don't deserve this." And because that feeling is so unbearable, because the waiting is worse than the pain itself, you do something. You create the crisis. You manufacture the problem. You blow it up before it can blow up on you. Psychologists call this self-sabotage, but that term makes it sound intentional, like you're choosing this. You're not. What's actually happening is your nervous system is trying to protect you from something it perceives as dangerous. And what it perceives as dangerous is happiness itself. Let me explain why. If you grew up in an environment where good things were always followed by bad things, where moments of peace were always interrupted by chaos, where happiness was a setup for disappointment, your brain learned a pattern. Good feelings equal danger, safety equals waiting for disaster, calm equals the calm before the storm. Your nervous system developed what psychologists call anticipatory anxiety. Not anxiety about something specific, but anxiety about the fact that things are going too well, because in your experience, that's when everything falls apart. So now, as an adult, when life starts to stabilize, when things start to go right, your body doesn't feel relief. It feels terror, because your past taught you that this is the most dangerous moment. This is when you should be bracing for impact, and in a twisted attempt to regain control, to prevent the inevitable pain, you sabotage it yourself. At least then, you chose it. At least then, you saw it coming. Here's what's happening in your brain during these moments. Your amygdala, the threat detection center, has been trained to associate positive experiences with impending danger. So when you get good news, when someone loves you, when success arrives, your amygdala doesn't celebrate. It panics. And when your amygdala panics, it activates your fight or flight response, except there's nothing to fight and nowhere to run. So that energy turns inward. It becomes restlessness, irritability, self-destruction. You start picking fights. You start making impulsive decisions. You start finding flaws in things that were fine 5 minutes ago. Neuroscientists call this mismatched arousal. Your body is preparing for a threat that isn't there, and because the threat isn't external, you create it internally. But there's another layer to this that's even more painful. For some people, self-sabotage isn't just about fear, it's about identity. If you spent your entire childhood being the problem child, the disappointment, the one who couldn't get it right, then struggle became part of who you are. You built your entire sense of self around being broken, being difficult, being the one who doesn't deserve good things. And when good things start happening, when people start treating you well, when success shows up, it creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance. Your external reality doesn't match your internal identity, and your brain can't tolerate that mismatch, so it does what it always does. It tries to restore equilibrium, And the only way to restore equilibrium is to destroy the good things so your reality matches your identity again. This is why you might feel more comfortable in chaos than in peace, why dysfunction feels like home, why toxic relationships feel familiar while healthy ones feel foreign and uncomfortable. It's not that you enjoy suffering, it's that suffering is what you know, and the unknown, even when it's good, feels more dangerous than the known pain. Let me paint you another picture. You're in a healthy relationship. For the first time, someone is consistent, caring, present. They text you back. They show up when they say they will. They don't play games. And instead of relief, you feel suspicion. What are they hiding? Why are they being so nice? What do they want from me? You start testing them, pushing boundaries, creating conflict to see if they'll leave. Because deep down, you believe that everyone leaves eventually. And if they're going to leave, you'd rather speed up the process, get it over with, control the inevitable. Psychologists call this a test for abandonment. You're not trying to push them away exactly. You're trying to confirm what you already believe about yourself, that you're unlovable, that good things don't last, that you were right to never hope in the first place. And here's the cruelest part. When they finally do leave, when they get exhausted from the constant testing, the manufactured drama, the emotional whiplash, you don't feel devastated. You feel relieved, because now your world makes sense again. Now the story you've been telling yourself your whole life is confirmed. See? I knew it. I knew I wasn't worth staying for. And the cycle continues. But let me tell you what's really happening beneath all of this. Something most people never realize. Self-sabotage isn't about destroying good things. It's about maintaining control in a world that once felt completely out of your control. When you were a child, bad things happened to you and you couldn't stop them. You were powerless, helpless, at the mercy of forces you couldn't predict or prevent. So your nervous system made a deal. If I can predict the pain, if I can cause the pain myself, then I'm not powerless anymore. I'm in control. And that feeling of control, even if it's control over your own destruction, feels safer than the vulnerability of hoping something good might actually last. This is why people stay in toxic situations, why they go back to abusive partners, why they quit jobs right before they would have succeeded. Not because they want to suffer, but because suffering is predictable, and predictability, even painful predictability, feels safer than the terrifying uncertainty of joy. Psychologists call this trauma reenactment. You're not repeating the past because you're broken. You're repeating it because your nervous system is trying to master something it couldn't control the first time. But here's what you need to understand. You're not that powerless child anymore. The bad thing that's coming, the disaster you're waiting for, it's not inevitable. That pattern doesn't have to continue. The old story doesn't have to be the only story, but your nervous system doesn't know that yet. It's still operating on outdated information. It's still protecting you from a danger that no longer exists. And until you update that programming, until you teach your body that safety is possible, that good things can last, that happiness isn't a trap, you'll keep destroying the very things you claim you want. So, how do you stop? First, you have to recognize the pattern. You have to catch yourself in the act. Notice when things are going well and you suddenly feel anxious, restless, or self-destructive. That's not intuition. That's not your gut telling you something's wrong. That's your trauma trying to protect you from a ghost. Second, you have to sit with the discomfort of happiness without acting on the urge to destroy it. This is the hardest part, because your entire body will be screaming at you to do something, to create a problem, to regain control. But if you can sit with that feeling, if you can let it move through you without acting on it, you start to rewire the pattern. You teach your nervous system that good things can exist without disaster following. That calm doesn't always precede the storm. That happiness isn't a setup for pain. It won't happen overnight. Your body has years, maybe decades of evidence that happiness is dangerous. You're asking it to trust something it's never experienced before. But every time you resist the urge to sabotage, every time you let something good stay good, you create new evidence. You build a new pattern. You prove to yourself that maybe, just maybe, you're allowed to have this. And slowly, the fear loosens its grip. But here's what I need you to hear, really hear. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not destined to destroy everything you touch. You are not unworthy of good things. You are a person whose nervous system learned to associate love with loss, success with failure, happiness with impending disaster, and that association was adaptive. It protected you when you needed protection, but you don't need it anymore. The chaos you create isn't proof that you're fundamentally flawed. It's proof that you survived something that taught you to expect pain, and survival strategies that once kept you safe can become the very things that keep you stuck. So the next time you feel the urge to blow up something good, to push away someone who cares, to quit right before you succeed, pause. Ask yourself, is this real danger, or is this my nervous system trying to protect me from a ghost? Is this intuition, or is this fear dressed up as wisdom? And if it's fear, if it's that old pattern trying to reassert itself, make a different choice. Not because you have to, not because you should, but because maybe for the first time in your life, you're ready to find out what happens when you let good things stay. Maybe you're ready to discover that you can survive happiness, that you can hold joy without waiting for it to shatter, that you deserve peace, not just because you've earned it, but because you're here. And that's enough. So stop sabotaging yourself. Not because you're strong enough to force yourself to change, but because you're brave enough to let yourself be loved. And that's the most radical thing you could ever do.